I don't want to be resilient. I want to be brilliant. And so for me, that rebrilliancy is we need each other to reflect back who we are in hard times. We need that garden of us all growing and tending to one another.
Tara Rynders is a nurse, artist, and founder of the Art and Heart of Healthcare, transforming how nurses heal through movement, play, and storytelling. After nearly losing her life, she realized the power of receiving care, and now she's on a mission to help nurses reclaim their joy, one dance at a time.
Our most precious gift that we have to offer each other, whether it's our patients or our colleagues, is our humanity. And that's really, I think, what was stripped from us during COVID is our humanity. And in many ways where we were told, we weren't given enough supplies to take care of, to protect ourselves. My worthiness was tied to the one always giving care. Yes. And so unraveling our worthiness as we are brilliance is our birthright. You don't have to do a thing. You are worthy to be cared for.
Greetings, everyone. This is Coach Charlene, and welcome to my new show, The Whispers of Wellness. And oh my God, let me tell you about this expert that's coming today. Tara, welcome to the show, first of all.
Oh, thank you. I am so happy always to be in your presence, Charlene. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So Tara, I will never, ever forget you and the work that you're doing. And so the way that I know Tara is I went to a rebrilliancy workshop when I was with KP, and it was so life-changing that it made me so happy in those 8 hours. And I didn't even get to meet you. So your team did an amazing job with still bringing your brand there. It was absolutely lovely. I thought this was like a breakthrough moment for me because I was in this pondering stage of, okay, what do I want to do when I grow up? Not necessarily that, but there was some stirring in my soul. And that workshop helped me to filter out what I needed to filter out. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do first, just in case anyone has heard you here, but she was on my podcast before, you guys. So you got to check out When the Moment Chooses You. And she did a beautiful interview with me I think last year or a couple years ago. So Tara, tell us who you are.
Yeah, thank you, Charlene. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Tara Rynders, and I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for over 20 years, and I'm the executive director of the Art and Heart of Healthcare, where we create spaces of healing and togetherness with nurses through the arts and movement and play, in hopes to create more joy and healing in our profession and help us remember why we love what we love and to create the change that needs to happen for us to continue loving nursing.
So Tara, when did you actually start getting involved in this type of work? Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, dance has always been, for me, my medicine. It was like a space that I could be free. I grew up in a pretty turbulent, violent household as a young child. I was the oldest of 4, and my parents married and divorced each other 3 times. It was very unstable. And I, was able to dance. And whenever I danced, I was able to release and just feel seen, feel in my body. When the rest of the time at home, I felt very much like I had to keep myself small. I had to keep hidden. I became the good girl. I was a golden child. I was the easy one. Just because I knew that was part of my survival in that, that upbringing. And so dance taught me early on how to tap into my soul and my heart and what I love. And really, I realize now that it was giving compassion to that little girl inside of me, and care and tending to her. And so I danced my whole life. And then, but it was really, my mom was like, I love that you dance and you need to do something that can make money. And so you're not relying upon a partner and you can be sustained. And so it just felt really like nursing was an easy transition because I was already tending to, I had a brother who was born with spina bifida. I cared for my mother who passed at 49. My sister is a quadriplegic. I was always tending to the world, caring for everyone else except myself. And so nursing felt very like the path that was, the chosen path for me.
Yeah.
And so I nursed for many, many years, over 20 years. And And it wasn't until, I would always, as much as I could, I would bring in dance. But when my mother died, when she was 49 and I was 26, it was like my whole world was shattered. And that's when I decided, like, I need to run to what brings me joy, where I find hope, find healing. And again, didn't really have the language for it, but just knew I needed to dance. And so I went back to school and got my master's in dance. And it really just affirmed all that I had been doing my whole life. Just gave me a space for 3 years to dance every day. And I was still working per diem and nursing at the same time. And then it wasn't until I had an ectopic pregnancy myself and almost died that I remembered how important it was to tend to myself and to and find healing. And so that's when I was like, I need to share this with nurses, and started creating these spaces of healing for them. And this was like in 2017. So pre-COVID, had this, these big ideas of offering workshops and bringing dance into our huddles and all these things. And everyone was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have a problem. Like, what do you mean nurse wellness? Like, we're fine. And so it took some time for things to get rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. You know how we are. We're pretty tough. We can we can take a licking and keep on ticking, and that's the problem. Yeah. So I decided to early retire, like I told you earlier. And the gap that I saw and continually see is that we're not doing a great job with prioritizing our well-being. And so when your program came along, I also am very connected in with Dr. Jean Watson's work. And so that was a way to bring in the love, bring in the caring, bring in the aesthetic things, the art of what we do. And so tell me about, because I think I read it on your website. You talked about your mom and you talked about that definition of resilience and how I kind of like how you redefine resilience. So could you go there for me for a little bit for those out there that are, I'm still in that little struggle mode?
Yeah, I think in many ways, we've been taught this definition of resiliency. And I remember when I was working during COVID at the bedside and people were like, you just have to be more resilient. Like, if our nurses could just be more resilient, we'll be okay. If you can just kind of bounce back a little quicker, a little stronger. And I remember thinking, you know what, nurses are some of the most resilient humans I know. Like, what's going on here? And it just didn't make sense to me. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be resilient. I want to be rebrilliant. And this word, I was just walking and I remember it came to me, this word rebrilliancy. And its definition was reflecting back the brilliant and resilient humans we already are. And so if you think about our, like, one photo we always show for resiliency is like that one flower that blooms from concrete. And how we're like, oh my gosh, how did that one flower do it? That's amazing. That's a resilient flower. But really, I think that's our obsession as a society with individual overcoming, which is really not helpful for this like collective resilience, rebrilliance. And so I like to think of rebrilliancy as, soil that's been soft, that's been tilled mindfully, and not just for me, but for everyone. And so that we have this big garden where we're all growing and we're all being nourished and tended to. And that, like, as that one flower all by itself, it blooms at the top. It's very lonely. And so for me, that rebrilliancy is we need each other to reflect back who we are in hard times. We need that garden of us all growing and tending to one another. And like the aspen trees, like our roots tied, around each other. And so that when the storms come, we're just like, yeah, this is crazy, but thank God you got me and I got you.
Yes.
And so that's really my new definition, is that it's, spaces, systems, relationships that reflect back who you truly are because sometimes we forget.
And that is so beautifully said, because that is so what I felt when I went. Mm-hmm. It was, knowledge by itself is really not what we need. We need experiences. And so you invited us into an experience. And so it was so amazing that everybody there they were one. We became one. And people began to start be like, one of the things that I think I mentioned it to you, but we were doing an activity and it was some type of question about, like, tell me the last time you felt like you were seen. I forgot what it said, but I was with a partner and someone I definitely didn't know. And I mean, it was like she was looking into my soul. So when she asked me the question, I immediately got tearful. I mean, immediate. And I just start sobbing and she starts sobbing. And it was such a beautiful connection. And I was like, oh my God, this is really what we need as nurses, because you're constantly, and I'm a nurse. I was a nurse leader at the time. So I'm like in grind mode. I'm ready to put my computer on the table and start multitasking because that's how we roll. But I remember I was like, no, you are going to put this thing up and you're going to enjoy every heartbeat that is spent today. And that's exactly what happened. But I think you have done a beautiful job with getting people to feel valuable and to feel like they're human. I think I found another quote where you said something like, let me see, can I find it? Because it was so good. Yeah, it has to do with moving healthcare heroes, something about healthcare heroes to healthcare human beings, seeing us as more than healthcare workers, we are human beings. And so can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I think, especially in the pandemic, we were known as the heroes, the healthcare heroes. But tell us a little bit more about really being seen as a human being.
Well, that's our most precious gift that we have to offer each other, whether it's our patients or our colleagues, is our humanity. And that's really, I think, what was stripped from us during COVID is our humanity. And in many ways where we were told, we weren't given enough supplies to take care of, to protect ourselves. We're kind of, after we would leave work and maybe go to the grocery store, if we're still in our scrubs, people are scared of us, but yet they're also calling us heroes. So there's this mind-body disconnect of what people are saying of who we are as these healthcare heroes and what our humanity was feeling, which was scared and lonely and just abandoned in many ways. And so they were saying jump off this building, you're a hero, but I'm sorry, we ran out of capes, but you're still going to have to jump. But, it should be okay when you land. And we're like, okay. But this feels horrible inside. And so it's, again, this disconnect in our bodies. And really, when you're a hero, you don't have spaces to break down. You don't have space to be I can't do this. This is too much. I'm sad. I'm scared, because all the heroes we know are jumping from building to building and doing their thing. And so I think it really did a disservice. And at first it felt good, right? To feel supported, but it was just accolades that really fell short of the substance. And it took away our greatest gift, which is our presence as humans with our patients and with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so beautifully said. So what do you think, or I guess I should ask it to you like this. What is your vision for the future? I would love to know, what would Tara like to see happen? Because we know that our statistics are still not the greatest, especially in the nursing profession. We have a lot of quiet quitting. We have a lot of people just really showing up and their body's there, but they're not really there. So what would be your dream for the future if Tara could have it work her way?
Oh, I have so many dreams. I think I would love to infiltrate the hospital with artists, collaborations with artists and dancers and musicians, and really turn upside down this idea of healing from this, colonial perspective, white supremacy's perspective of what, in capitalism, of what it means to have a space of healing, and break that down and bring in artists and diverse backgrounds, people who incorporate healing in so many different modalities, and collaborate with them, nurse leaders side by side with, musicians, figuring out okay, well, we have this huddle. What would you do at this huddle to, and then let the musician lead the huddle or whatever it may be, but just bring in different voices, creative, innovative voices besides, the white male perspective leading the hospital. I think a big part of this is, understanding our role in health disparities in healthcare, our role as nurses. I would love to see health disparities eliminated because everyone's taking ownership of their role in racism at the bedside and how they, exacerbate it or continue it versus doing the unlearning to stop it. And I think at the end of the day, I would love our system to stop focusing so much on patient outcomes and focusing more on how to create spaces where nurses can care for each other. So like,
Yeah.
even as a leader, I don't think it's your role to care for every single one of your, reports or your nurses. I think your role is to create a culture where nurses care for each other. And so how is the system set up for nurses to feel cared for by each other, by the structure of the day? And really, I just think we need to burn it to the ground and start over and bring in the right people.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay, we're going to vote you in.
And I say burn it to the ground, and I also recognize that's not a very appropriate metaphor to use. So I apologize, but can we knock it down, do something to start over?
I mean, and I understand. I think I definitely understand where you're coming from, because we have to, there's a quote, and it says, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming, but it's about unbecoming everything that's not like you until you can become who you were destined to be. So I kind of see that, because the heart of healthcare is really to serve. And if we focus on the caregivers, I think it will be automatic with them giving of themselves to serve humanity. The outcomes will be there. Like, it will be an automatic. That's my personal belief. I believe that if you make me, and you don't have to make me feel valued, you just give me the tools and create the culture that I need, that I can grow, that my voice matters, that what I say matters, that I have gifts and talents that I want to use for to guide my practice. If you give me that freedom, I just feel like it would be more sustaining. But the sad part is, this is from my experience. I can't say it's anybody else's. It was more of a shrink to fit model. When you do start shining your light a little bit, someone wants to put your light out, because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be grinding, but don't worry about creativity. Don't worry about all that stuff. You just keep dealing with the things that I gave you. So in that type of atmosphere, especially as a nurse leader, after retirement, I recognized that my soul kept score.
Yeah.
And so I love when you talk about, that's why I love the movement and everything that you guys do, because when your soul is keeping score, and what I mean by the soul keeps score, I'm sure a lot of people have read The Body Keeps Score, but I have found with the aha revelation after retirement that my soul was keeping score of the chronic busyness, the lack of satisfaction, the lack of fulfillment. All of it was an undercurrent. It was not visible, but for me, it was very strong, because I felt my heart so misaligned that it was hard to keep going and keep doing the same thing. Or I pushed through and I was drained every time, when I used to be energetic and, I'm loving what I'm doing. Now it's like, oh my God, when is this going to be over? So can you talk to us a little bit about how you use art to really deal with that particular situation? Like, somebody's coming to work, they're really there, but they're not really there. And they have all this trauma trapped inside of the chronic busyness, short staff, all of the things that we deal with as nurses. So how can your program help them, if there's an individual out there that really is looking forward to doing something great, which is to get healing from one of your workshops?
Yeah. I love how you said the soul keeps the score. I think that's so beautiful and so true, right? And so many times, as you said, it's hidden. We don't even know it's there. And so it's hard, I think, for people to realize they even need help. But I think what the first step is we start by telling the truth. And so our workshops are really set up for immediately telling the truth. You come in and we wash your hands and you say, what are you hoping for? And it catches people off guard, and they're just like, I don't know if I've ever like thought of what I'm hoping for before, but it's like these questions, we start asking questions throughout the day for people to start getting back their voice of like, this is what I want. This is what I'm hoping. This is what I've gone through. And so it's really just truth telling and aligning again, our hearts and our minds in alignment so that we're in our integrity of who we are and embodied. And the movement and the play bring us back to, like the body doesn't lie, right? The body. And so when we get into the body and we play and we're like kids again, and we're just interacting with one another, the real us comes out in a really beautiful way. And I do think a lot of what you were mentioning, Charlene, is grief. All the grief for all the years that we've held. And so we started doing the Creative Care Journey, which is a group coaching opportunity. And it's been so good. So we come together online and we do all of these same arts-based experiences virtually with one another. And then we walk through the grief recovery method together because I'm an advanced grief recovery specialist. And so I lead people through their grief. And then we, gather these tools so that when they do go back into work and into these spaces of grief and secondary traumatic stress and all the things, they have new tools to be able to face it. But it's really, truly the play, it's the movement, it's the poetry, it's the music, it's the arts that it's our humanity, right? And as humans, our humanity, it's so real, it's authentic. And that's where the healing happens when we tell the truth.
Yeah, and you allow people to stand in who they are. I think sometimes people don't even know who they are. Yeah. And so there's plenty of spaces or times in the workshop that you get to really go deep and to see who am I really, what's really bothering me, and then to create a safe space like you've done in such a way that we can have these really courageous conversations that we would normally not have at all. I thought that was the secret sauce in there, because there's topics that I had never expressed anything about how I felt being one of the few Black nurse leaders, never. But when she asked me the question, it was very inviting, and it allowed me to get it out where I hadn't really voiced that concern before. And so just that healing piece for me, just to release the sound. And so I think that's what I saw. People were just peeling back the mask and really being who they really, truly, authentically being, and silly and dancing and music. And, it's just a beautiful thing. So I'm just totally am in awe of the work that you're doing.
Well, you were so beautiful in it, in the videos that I saw, just fully.
Oh my God. I look like a 5-year-old. I was like, oh, wow, that's my 5-year-old self just really having a blast. And, and I needed that at that time. See, that's the thing. I think sometimes nurses, we just want to grind. And you really need to pause. And that's why I have to give kudos to KP, because what organization is going to give you 8 hours of play? I'm just saying, it was absolutely amazing. But I think more organizations need to understand that when you're dealing with your healthcare workers or your care teams or service providers, you're going to have to do a little bit more intense focus on them, because they do need to be seen. They do need to be heard. They do need to express themselves. So I think what the work that you're doing is absolutely amazing. And I'm excited about the possibilities to come. So why don't you do this for us, Tara? Can you tell us about what you offer?
Yeah, so we offer arts-based, play-based workshops. The one Rebrilliancy is what we've been doing for the past couple of years. And it's really, in many ways modeling what it looks like to be seen just as this beautiful, courageous human. And every person who walks through that door, it's how we see you. And it's amazing. And when you see someone for who they are, they show up in that way. And so we dance, we play, we cry. And it's, I love this saying, I'm happy because I cry so much. And I think a lot of our joy, the depths that we allow ourselves to grieve are the depths that we allow ourselves to experience joy. And so the day is really a mix of both these intense, hard conversations and just complete freedom and play and dressing up as astronauts or whatever it may be that we're doing that year. And so we offer workshops, 2-hour, 4-hour, and 8-hour workshops. And then We offer the creative care journey, which is we start off with 4 weeks of vital care, where it's just arts-based care connection with one another through poetry. And we just really get back in touch with our creative selves, because that's the humanity. That's the space that we go, oh yeah, this is who I am. And then we dive into our grief for about 7 weeks. And then we do an integration period where we spend 4 weeks really and basically saying, well, now what? You're a different human now. Like, you've grown, you're back to who you really truly are. As you said earlier, peeling off the layers. Now what? And maybe your career trajectory, your life trajectory has changed. And so let's figure that out together. And so it's really more of like a wraparound care through the arts in that way. And then we do, just grief recovery on its own. And then I'm going to be doing a one-woman show in Denver in June. So I'm hoping to travel that, and which is really focusing on all of these themes we've talked about, but a lot around as nurses, how difficult it is for us to receive. And that when I almost died in my ectopic pregnancy, the moment that's really stuck with me was a nurse grabbed my hand, my nurse, Paige, grabbed my hand, and she said, I'm here and you're going to be okay. And I was completely passed out. I'm like, my stomach is getting more and more distended. I'm bleeding internally. And I remember like wanting to pull away from her hand. And so I think there's this like epidemic of not receiving care, of thinking and then for me, it was tied back to my worthiness, because my worthiness was tied to the one always giving care. And so unraveling our worthiness, as we are like, brilliance is our birthright. Like, you don't have to do a thing. You are worthy to be cared for. Hard stop.
I love that.
And so, sharing some of those themes through performance, and then we're doing a tour of our documentary as well that we did with Kaiser that will be coming up.
Oh, amazing. That is wonderful. So I'll make sure I put that in the description. But you said something that kind of was like, okay, let's unpack that just a little bit about the fact of feeling unworthy. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because post-retirement, I had to grapple with that thing, because I was not busy. I was not like stressed out, seeing how much I could do at one time. I felt a little bit of that try to creep in. Like, okay, you're not doing all the things. You're not reporting out here. You're not doing this. You're not doing this. So like, what are you really worth? So it's so amazing of how you have to take care of yourself. And so I wanted you to describe for me courageous care. What is courageous care? Because I had to give myself courageous care during that particular time. And to the inner coach, Charlene, had to speak to the inner critic that was trying to talk. Yeah. And so the inner coach began to say, no, you are enough. You are amazing. You are brilliant. You are this. I had to start speaking to myself because of my pattern. The unconscious part of me wanted to keep saying, okay, you're not working. So are you even necessary anymore? Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about courageous care. I'm just curious what that means.
Yeah. Well, first I'll say that feeling of unworthiness is it's everywhere. And I think that as women, we don't talk about it, but I'll tell you, every single woman and even a couple men that I worked with have all told me that they feel unworthy. Like, that is their baseline, that there is a sense of unworthiness. And I think in nursing, it's especially strong because we were taught that our worthiness is tied to our productivity, to how many patients we can take, if we can skip the lunch, if we're going to stay late and give extra report, if we're going to help out, or are we going to leave without helping out, even though it's been 13 hours, all of these things that tell us that we're good and that we're praised all have to do with our productivity and showing up for other people. And so that I just want to name that this self-esteem, unworthiness is a huge issue for all women. And I won't say every single one of them, but it's been my experience. So courageous care states that when we soften and receive together, we experience healing and joy. And it's really alongside Jean Watson's Caritas and the play theory. It's courageous care a big part of our framework for our workshop. So we create spaces where we can soften, because once you soften, you're able to receive. It's like in dance, when you do a big leap, you have to first plie or bend your knees. There needs to be like a sense of bending, of softening in order to jump into the air. And so we create those spaces of softening, so then we can receive. And in the workshops, I love it because nurses don't even realize they're receiving, because we're not like talking about like, it's like this, the whole thing is for you to receive. You can't say, I'm not going to receive. Like, it's just the whole workshop is you receiving.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to do like show up in this, way that you're used to showing up. And so, and then the togetherness, it's because when we receive together, and Bell Hooks' beautiful quote, rarely do we ever heal in isolation. It's when we commune with one another that healing takes place. And so we need each other, and especially nurses who are inherent healers. And when we allow each other to be in space with one another, that healing is just like on fast track. It's just like amazing what it feels like to be known by another nurse as a nurse. And that's where the healing happens. And then the joy is inevitable, because it's like you said, when we take off those layers, when we can show up authentically and be who we are and feel accepted, like the joy just happens.
Yeah, beautiful, man. It has been such a treat and an honor and a pleasure to have you on this show. I really, really thank God for you, because you are an amazing human being. And I am going to get to one of your workshops. I'm thinking about that one woman show. That sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah, you should come out for it.
I know. That's like around my birthday month. So, I might.
When's your birthday?
It's June 5th.
Mine's June 4th.
Oh, wait, we're sisters for real.
Amazing.
No, but so I'm going to actually have you say the last words for this particular program. So my hope is that the audience will be healthcare workers and organizations that want to reprioritize the well-being for their healthcare workers. So can you give me a wisdom gem for an individual and then one for an organization?
Yeah, I think for the individual, my hopes would be that we are able to tell the truth and receive care. And then for an organization, I think it's what I said before, is like pulling back and focusing on creating spaces where nurses can be cared for and can care for each other. And then inevitably, the patients will be cared for as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I am so honored to have you and be in your space. And I hope that everybody listening, you have to also go back and see she goes deeper into her story about her ectopic pregnancy. Just a beautiful interview. So thank you so much, Tara. I really appreciate you. And I wish you well. And I hope you just get all of the dreams in your heart to come true.
Thank you, Charlene. Appreciate you.